friend or anything like that. He's the worst kind of sexual predator. The one who can enter the home of someone who trusted him, violate her, and have no remorse about looking her in the eye again. He basically groomed me over the course of 1.5 years, like any other sexual predator would do. He gained my trust, as well as the trust and familiarity of my dogs, and used it against me to break me in the safety and security of my own home. This occurred while I was sleeping. I woke up to this in my home. People have asked why I didn't fight, and the answer is I couldn't. I've had that silent scream. Your body just goes into paralysis. You can't do anything. I was aware that he carried a knife, and I knew if I tried to fight, I'd have a 50-50 chance, so I did the best that I could, and I continued. He thought that I was asleep or passed out the whole time, but I wasn't. When he left, my dogs thumped their tail. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but they thumped their tail, excited to see him, and he told them to shh. And he walked right down, right into his apartment and faced his wife. I called the police and did everything I was supposed to. I called the police immediately, within the hour. I preserved the evidence despite the overwhelming urge to get the filth out of me. Did everything I could, and when the cops showed up, I viewed the body cam. Then the first thing I say to them is, please save me. And it's obvious that the shock, the fear, everything was on the cam. Now mind you, he did all of this while his wife was right below me, right below my bedroom. Don't think for a moment that because this was not a violent assault where I suffered physical injury, that I do not suffer. Since then, I have had bouts of insomnia, but I have had medication and counseling to help that, and I am now up to about 5 hours per night, except for the last few nights. During the first week, I hardly slept. I didn't meet my regular bodily functions. 10 days later, my period, didn't eat, didn't sleep. And those aren't things that you can control. So this shook me to my core. I had an underlying physical tension across my chest. It was like a clamp. And I had that for quite some time, until I finally saw a doctor and got the anti-anxiety and a heavy sedative to get me over this. Today, there's no amount of fluoxetine that's going to help me with this, but as a matter of fact, Monday night I became physically ill, stressing. I've also become more reclusive. There are 2 people that I allow into my home because I don't want my dogs familiar with anybody. I've thought about that. What if my dogs weren't familiar? Wouldn't they have responded differently? Would I have woke up? I've laid awake many nights thinking about the what ifs. Maybe I shouldn't be so friendly with my neighbors. Maybe I should keep my door closed all the time. I've added screeching alarms to all of my doors, front, back, and to my bedroom doors. I don't want anybody to know my dogs. I want them to bark whenever anybody comes close. When you go without lack of sleep or minimal sleep that's restless, when you have the anxiety and depression that I've had, it turns you into simply a zombie of yourself. There are days that I don't get out of bed when I don't have to, and there are days that I struggle to get out of bed when I must. Some days, I'm okay, and I really am some days. And then out of nowhere, this will sucker punch me. There are times I might see somebody on the bus or the shuttle that reminds me of him, and that's enough for my day. I have tried the recovery. I have undergone weekly counseling sessions with the Rape Crisis Center, which have recently moved to bi-weekly sessions. I still question the whys. I question what I could have done, what I shouldn't have done. I've questioned a lot about this, but I know the only one that has the answers to this is the rapist. He's the only one who can answer why he did this. He continued for a long time with the lie that this was consensual, and I assure you, it was not consensual under any circumstances. The thought of it turns my stomach. As you continue with recovery, I think we're all familiar with the Me Too movement. I cannot get away from the triggers. If I watch entertainment news, it is there. If I watch political news, it is there. If I watch local news, it is there. I'm glad that it is there so that women feel the support to stand up. But I can't get away from it. I see all of the comments. Well, why'd she go out with him? Why'd she do this? Why did she stay at her job? Why this? All of it is victim blaming. I blame myself at night, lying there while my mind escapes. It's ingrained in us to blame the victim. But don't this time blame the rapist. He's the only one responsible for this. As one friend told me, recovery is not a straight line, and she's right. I found it's more like giving an angry 2-year-old a crayon in your dining room wall. There's like that. You might have some days where you go up, and there's other days it's just a ball of yarn that you gave to a bunch of cats. And someday, I may let someone unknown to my dogs come in, but today's not that day. And someday, the physical tension will be gone without the meds, but today's not that day. Someday, the fits of crying will be gone, but today's not that day. Someday, the bubbling lava of hate, anxiety, frustration that is always simmering will be gone. Today's not been that day. Someday, the anxiety and depression will be gone, but today's not it. And someday, I might get 8 full hours of restful sleep, but I guarantee you this is not been it. Before I moved into my apartment, I checked the sexual offender registry, and there was nothing listed in my building. Unfortunately, even with this prior rape, that was before the SOR was in effect. But he's not even on the lease, so it would never have shown up anyway. I wouldn't have been protected, even though I took the right steps. You're aware. I know that you've seen his record, and I know that no one's going to get up and talk more about it, but he's got 4 decades of crime. He has spent time in prison in every one of those decades. He's long past rehab, long past that. He hasn't learned. He's got no respect for the people who trusted him, his wife or the law. He will never become a productive, contributing member of society. Never. I'm begging you to protect society against this sexual predator. Protect us against this queer and criminal. He is the worst kind of monster. He is a repeat sexual offender who preys not just on anyone, somebody who truly twisted him. He has blamed me for his actions.
How did he blame you?
Telling them that it was consensual. I opened the door naked. I did not, and I never have, and I will not. I've had to answer to that, and of course, only was doing his job and asking me that. That is never. This was only a relationship of respect and friendship. You need a extra roll of toilet paper, run up and get it.
I'm not blaming you. I don't want you to leave with that impression. I read the report and I didn't see any indication of that, and that's why I was wondering.
It's just through the trial prep.
Okay.
Saying it was consensual, that I'd open the door and begged him and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So that's where I get that from. I've told you about some of the impact it's had, but I have bridges yet to cross. Someday I will date. And someday I will have relations again. I don't know how that's going to be, so I can't even begin to tell you about the impact of that. But at this point, again, there's no hope for rehab. 8 years isn't nearly long enough for him, and 16 years isn't either, but it's the best that we have to work with. So I'm asking you, make it consecutive. People demand to make it consecutive. We can't let him get out. I don't care what his age is. He's
Thank you very much, ma'am. I'm very sorry that this happened to you. Are you continuing with your counseling at?
I have a session this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you so.
They've been very helpful.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Prosecutor?
Your Honor, can we?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. This defendant did plead to 2 felonies in the second degree. The parties agree that there was not a merger on these 2 felonies in the second degree. Therefore, he's looking at up to 16 years of consecutive prison time. The state of Ohio did provide this court with a sentencing memorandum outlining our argument under 29, 29, 11, and 12 for the need for a prison term, as well as our argument under 29, 29, 14, C4 for the need of consecutive prison terms. And the state's requesting, along with the victim, that the court impose a consecutive sentence on this defendant in order to protect the public from future crimes and to show that consecutive sentences are not disproportionate to a type of crime involving sexual assault like we had here. With that, Your Honor, the state of Ohio is asking that based upon this defendant's replete criminal history, starting back in 1975, involving sexual offenses, and the continuation of those today as noted in our sentencing memorandum, the state of Ohio stands with our victim, and we do ask this court impose a maximum consecutive sentence, Your Honor. Thank you.
Attempted rape and burglary are each felonies of the second degree. I'm sorry, Mr. Harlow, is there anything further that you'd like to say?
No, Your Honor, we're not here to debate the facts in terms of, all we're here, Your Honor, is to see what he accepted responsibility for, and that was attempted rape. There's never, since the time I've represented my client, where he has played the blame game. He's given his recitation of facts, and I'm not going to embarrass anybody in court here today, but the court has in front of it what the initial report from the police said as to what took place that day, what the situation was prior to that day. That's neither here nor there. But what is here and there is him accepting responsibility for his conduct that day. He does have a history. There's no denying it. There's no running away from it. And for that, Your Honor, he's sorry for what took place. And in terms of the blame game, he's here today accepting responsibility. If he were to play the blame game, Your Honor, we would have been in trial. And that was not his choice. We can't change the events today. All we can do is accept responsibility for our conduct.
All right, attempted rape and burglary are each felonies of the second degree. The sentence of the court will be the same on each. $250 in costs, 8 years at the Lorraine Correctional Institution. Each of those sentences will be ordered to be served consecutive to each other. The court makes the following finding with reference to his sentencing. This court finds that this rape occurred in the night season, occurred from somebody who was a neighbor and had...
Your Honor, just for the record, everybody keeps calling this a rape. It was not a rape. It's an attempted rape. And I just want the record to make sure it's clear.
Well, I think that what's clear to me is that the victim has said that she agreed to an attempted rape, but she did say in her victim's statement that this was a completed act.
Well, Judge, I know what she said, and I know what the law is. In the prosecutor's office, after consultation with the victim and understanding the law, would never have allowed us to plead to an attempted rape if the facts didn't support it.
The victim indicated to the court that this was a completed act.
And the court has in front of it what the plea was and what he accepted responsibility
Okay.
for.
The court further finds that these allegations were made by the defendant's neighbor. The court finds that he's previously been convicted of rape, breaking and entering, theft, trespassing, and the court finds that he gained access to her home. The court finds that consecutive sentences as a result of the information the court just reiterated, that the consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime. The court finds that consecutive sentences are necessary to punish the defender. This court believes that based upon his record that consecutive sentences are not disproportionate to the seriousness of the offender's conduct. The court further finds, as a result of his record, that the consecutive sentences are not disproportionate to the danger that the offender poses to the public. And finally, the court does find that the offender's history of criminal conduct, which does include rape, breaking and entering, theft, trafficking, and escape, that his history of criminal conduct demonstrates that consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crimes by the offender. The court also finds that this offender is a Tier 3 sex offender and will inform the defendant of the following responsibilities and obligations. As a Tier 3 sex offender, you are